Today we've got a very special guest. We've got Joseph of Junius. So thanks so much for talking with us today. We had a little trouble getting you connected because I'm an actual moron with computers. So it's finally done. It's finally here, and we're so stoked that you could join us. You've got
awesome.
You've got a brand new record coming out just next month. Eternal Rituals for the Accretion of Light. And this is your first full length in a number of years. Please tell us. I've heard a little bit of it. I think 365 has heard the entire thing. I've only heard the two singles that have come out. Give us an idea of what listeners can expect with the entire record.
This record will complete the trilogy that we were kind of set out to do. Well, we didn't really set out to do intentionally until Reports, for our last album, our last LP, and after that one, we were like, we got to do a third one. We had a bit of lineup change and some issues internally, and then, but I still wanted to finish this third record, and it basically ties back to Martyrdom, so it should be just a kind of conceptually a loop that'll can go on forever. Hence kind of like the Eternal Rituals idea. Everything's about a ritual within a ritual within a ritual. So it's kind of, so for this album, it's I tried to combine a little bit of a Martyrdom feel, structurally more so Martyrdom feel and with kind of the boldness of Reports. So I try to make every album kind of feel connected in some way, and so even with synths and tones, and we try to use combinations of synth sounds from Reports and synth sounds from Martyrdom, and I kind of combine them, and so you'll hear some familiar and some new sounds. So it should be kind of hopefully it'll feel part of a whole, but still on its own. I mean, it's definitely very different than the other albums. Like, it's probably our most aggressive and also our most kind of like delicate sounding album. The dynamics are pretty extreme on this one. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see what people think.
Well, I mean, so far I really dig what I'm hearing. I'm a little curious about the concept of rituals within rituals here. Where did that become a point of fascination for you?
Essentially, like with Martyrdom, we just decided to get weird, and I was reading about this guy, Emmanuel Velikovsky, and I decided, I was like, well, let's do it about him. Let's get weird before, I don't know, it's our first album, no one knows who we are, so let's just go out and do whatever we want right now. And we did this concept, and it's basically just a life story from birth to death kind of thing, and it's kind of symbolic of our lives at that time. It's this person was going through struggles within his career and his personal life, and we were all going the same thing. I mean, touring musician, hitting 1 million shows a year kind of thing, like, it takes its toll. So it was kind of a good concept for us to do. And after that, we kind of, for me, I got spoiled, and I wanted to keep doing concept albums. And I was like, oh man, I don't think I can go back to just writing a song to write a song. I needed to have a deeper meaning to it. And you kind of get caught up in, like, within the song, it has to contribute to the broader narrative of the album. And then, but also within that broader narrative, you have to, or within each song, you'd have to make it relate on its own. So the theme within the song would have to be something that's, that's well-rounded and can translate on its own without having to listen to the entire album to really get it. And then within that, so then you have the theme, let's say, just I'll give you an example with the ritual within a ritual kind of thing. It's almost like, it's more or less like that, a Mandelbrot set within, it's kind of, you're basically building something inside something, and you just keep going deeper and deeper into it. So for me, it was, you take a song, let's say the popular love song, or no, let's say Stargazers and Grave Diggers. So like that was like a heady song that was on the album, and within that song, it was kind of the ultimate battle between, like, for the album, it's like the climactic point to where Emmanuel Lozkowski kind of squares off with the likes of, like, basically Carl Sagan or anybody. I mean, he had a lot of battles with academia and other academics, and so essentially it was within the song that was like kind of the part of the bigger narrative of the album, because that's the climactic point in the album, and it's also within the song it's about the struggles. He's kind of a dreamer kind of guy, and he's going against people are basically crushing his dreams at that point. That song was representing, and within that song, I had to talk about the Junius aspect of what it was, or just the personal aspect of being a musician, and the pressures of society and that kind of thing, with family and just going out on the road and relationships, and so then and that works on that level. So it has to work. So essentially, you just keep making sure that everything works on multiple levels, if not for like 2 to 3 levels at that time, and that becomes like this real weird. It's almost like it's basically the idea of like of a pattern within a pattern within a pattern. So translating that to the next album, we were like, all right, well, we got to continue this. We got to do the concept. I'm already spoiled myself to wanting just to keep doing this kind of formula. So I was like, all right, let's just continue this formula. I'm like, well, we're going to go. So within that concept of life to death, it ends with him dying, because he dies in 1979 or 1980. And so I was like, all right, well, he's dead. Now how am I going to continue this going on? So I was like, well, let's what happened? Where'd he go? What happened when he died? And you're like, okay, well, death. Where do you go when you die?
Well, according to Sagan, we were all made of stardust, so, I mean, to the stars, wouldn't that be right?
True. Well, that's our material origin. Sure, I definitely agree with that wholeheartedly. It's because it's fact. So but at the end, at the end of martyrdom, the idea of consciousness, more or less, going into because you can't really say, oh yeah, well, this whole album is just going to be about stardust. It was like, okay, we have to have some sort of, a journey, because that's every story needs a journey, and so, you don't have to, but for us, I to have with our band and having lyrics, and I mean, you can easily be an instrumental band and say, oh, this is going to be about stardust, and then do whatever the hell you want, but that's not what we do. So
it's cheating.
So I was like, yeah, it's total cheating. So I think it's like, so we were like, all right, well, let's go with this idea. So I would just read. I'm like, I mean, I don't know what happened when you die, so I would just kind of read people who died. I just read as many books and interviews, and just watch people and see, the emotion they go through when they talk about these experiences, and regardless of it, whether it being, final synapse, going off in your brain that sparks this hallucinatory effect before you get revived. I don't know. Who knows? Like the release of what was it?
DMT, I think.
Yeah, or exactly like DMT. Like, what is it? Is that just something that's happening in your brain and that's it and it's over? But you kind of have to let that go, because you're like, all right, well, fine, maybe that's what it is, but there is. And let's say it is. It doesn't really matter. There's still some sort of evolutionary process that happens for that, because within these stories, all over the world, they have the same process. It's regardless of the same experience. It's always like, hovering effects, like you're above your body. I mean, it varies, but I think it was 80% of all near-death experiences who actually have an experience will have about the same process. Hovering of some sort, traveling towards a light through a tunnel or something, greeted by somebody familiar. It could be anybody familiar. It doesn't have to. Some people see Jesus, some people see Muhammad, some people see dude they met on the street with her wearing a red shirt and Doc Martens. Like, it's random. It could be anybody that just like greets you, you know. And so anyway, and then you keep going beyond that. Then you have your life. Man, I'm trying to stretch my brain. I gotta remember. You have your, you know, your whole life flashes before your eyes, and that can happen at different points. But this is generally the process what I took for the album, and then it just basically kept going, and up until you learn some truths about yourself, about what you've done, and then you have a decision to go to the unknown and or come back. And that's generally what most of the people who have these, you know, experiences go through. And so at that point, you know, so that whole album was based on that. So I had to break it down. So every song was broken down into a step, and then within that, I had to do the same thing, find, you know, it's part of the bigger narrative, and then within that song, a theme that could resonate on its own without having to be part of the album, and then and then I have to put myself into that theme, and then I have to put some part of my life into that theme. So that was that. So that was for the second album. I'm giving you the long answer for for talking about this new album. So, and then for the next one, so after that, this is the hard part, because that was like 5 years ago. That was a long time ago when we released that. So now, after that album was finished, I was like, all right, well, that's it. We're done. I'm like, man, but I was like, oh man, it would be really nice to just do a third. Like, 3 just feels better than 2, you know? And it's like 3 would be nice. Like 3 feels like right, but I don't know what the hell. He's dead. Like, he's dead. And then we go into like we go into his afterlife, and then now what do we do? Like, it's over. Like, so I was really bummed. I was like, dang, I can't think of it. Okay, well, I got to really think about this. And then a lot of things. We toured a lot after that album, so we were like nonstop touring, and we kind of chose probably poorly to tour more than we should have, and probably try to write more. But and I think that's where things kind of went sideways for Junius for the last 5 years. So, yeah, so we had some internal issues, and we split. And I'm still thinking about the concept. I'm like, how am I going to make this third album? And I forget. And essentially, like, I don't know. I had we started writing. I wrote like 7 tunes for this new album that I really didn't have a concept for, but I was just writing. I was like, well, I'm just going to write, and let's just see, and hopefully these little ideas. I mean, they're not even songs. Like, we're just talking riffs and ideas and just brainstorming tone or like mood for the album. And so basically I did it, and then we had the internal issues, and then it just kind of just sat there, and nothing happened. And I was getting sick of waiting around for some dudes to get their stuff together and start getting this album going. So I was like, you know what, screw it. Let me just do this on my own. And then it kind of all clicked. Once I like decided to approach this on my own, everything kind of fell into place. There was a book that I read that I love. It's called Initiation by Elizabeth Hake, I believe it's pronounced. And it's a great book. And I've read it before all the conceptual stuff started. I just kind of forgot about it. I mean, I loved it, and I've read it a couple times every once in a while, but I never thought about doing an album about it. But the greater theme in that one was her revisiting past life, like having these past life experiences, and like she was a yoga teacher back in, I think it was the 20s or 30s. Like, she brought yoga to the Western world, pretty much. She's one of the main people, one of the main contributors to bringing yoga to the Western world. So, like, she had this. Anyway, it's a fascinating book, but it talks about this idea that she just started to like awaken to the fact that she's been around before and have these memories come back to her, and she would write about them, and regardless of it's truth or not, like, it's just a fascinating book. And so I was like, well, that's cool, and she's aware, and I thought that was interesting. It's like, okay, so you're going along life and you feel like you've been there before, and your awareness is like heightened. You know that you're going to die, and you know that you're going to come back, that's just going to continue to happen. That sucks. Like, you're just like, okay, well, this is it. Like, you're just going to keep coming back, keep doing the same crap, and and so I was like, oh, that's interesting. But for her, there was an initiation process to get out of this idea, the Saṃsāra, get out of the cycle, the birth, death, life cycle, and get out of it. And I was like, well, that's it. I mean, I was like, shit, this has been sitting on my shelf for 3 years or whenever I decided to start the album. And I was like, and that's like the missing key. And I was like, that's it. So if I had the third album, it would be about breaking the cycle of life and death. And so it's about the eternal, and it's about these rituals, and you perform these rituals to control. It's like meditation. Like you have to control yourself. You got to control your emotions. You have to control everything. Any human aspect you need to, you have to have control over. So, and then you get rid of them, and you become more pure in that sense, and then you're ready to undertake a initiation ritual without dying, essentially. So anyway, it's this whole thing, and it's really cool. And so anyway, the album is just essentially kind of like a guide on that path. So it just links. So after death, let's say after reports, he dies, comes back, and he's now aware. Eternal Rituals is now a person aware that this cycle continues, and now they're trying to get out of it, and then eventually it could just lead right back into another life.
Yeah. So what do you
martyrdom? Just another life.
What do you think happens after the cycle of birth, death, rebirth? How do you exit the cycle, and I guess more importantly, what do you see after that?
I don't know. Obviously now that would be the next album, and I really have no idea, because I feel like it's one of those situations where no matter how hard you think about it, and you're like, we're basically an amoeba on a piece of metal that's attached to an engine that's driving down a highway on a on a planet rotating around the sun. Well, that's a solar system. That's so what is the amoeba like? Does the amoeba understand like what it's part of? It's like, I don't think I'll ever know. I think that's one of the things. I think you don't know what the greater is. You try. I think you recognize the patterns of that. It's like I said, like the Mandelbrot set, like these things that these it's almost like we're an algorithm. Like we're part of a greater pattern. And if you recognize the pattern, you might be able to not even almost subconsciously understand what you are. It's almost undescribable, like indescribable. You couldn't put words to it, because it's just so beyond words that you would just have to be. And that's what like the meditative state would help you to be, and not to think about. And I think that's a concept that's kind of hard to grasp for most people, because we really need, our existence is based on communication. So, words describing linear ideas, like thinking in the abstract, is a really hard thing for most people to do. And I think musicians have a little easier, because you kind of have to think in the abstract a little bit when you're writing music and you're doing this weird, it's just tones. You're like just combining tones to make emotion come out of people. Like it's a weird alchemy to it. But I think on that level, you kind of get it a little. And I don't know. I mean, but what I say, which I really probably don't get it at all. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what comes after. I don't know. I think you become whatever it is, and then our form of communication and understanding is just, we couldn't even talk about it,
Yeah. When I was in college, I took a course on spiritualism, and throughout just reading all these philosophies and ideas and different writers, one of the main bonds was that everyone experiences at least one spiritual moment in their life. And I've just been racking my brain since taking that class, trying to think of if I've ever had one. Have you ever had a spiritual moment like that?
I think, honestly, yeah. I mean, I think that's the thing. I think for me, the spiritual moment was music. So for me, it was picking up. It wasn't even like learn. I remember specifically, it was the first time I felt like I understood what I was trying to do musically. And I was like, okay, there's a meditative, I mean, I guess learning an instrument or learning some sort of artistic discipline, like you kind of go on this process. It's just ritualistic work, right? You have discipline and learning technique. You learn how, you learn your instrument, or you learn your, just how to draw. I don't know anything about visual art, but like, you learn your instrument and you write, and some people like to learn their scales. Some people really like to go through the traditional forms of, scales and learning how to improvise with, they go down that path. And then others, which I think most of the music that I'm assuming people you interview go down this path, would be, you just start writing. As soon as you get proficient enough, you just start writing because you just want to create. So, and I think you just go, and then the more you do it, the more things start unlocking, whether it's subconscious or conscious, you start to unlock it, and you start becoming, and for me, there was a moment. So after probably, I'd say, about 4 or 5 years, I had my first moment to where I was like into like playing guitar and writing and like obsessively writing, like dropping out of college, like, I was like, this is it. I'm not wasting any time. And I think that's when it hit me. And it was just this moment where it wasn't even, it wasn't the greatest song, but it was one of the things where I started to get a realization, and you just get that aha moment, and you're like, oh my God, and just like, it changes you, like you're just different after that. And I think that for me was that. And then after that, it happens more frequently. And now it's like, it's kind of one of those moments where writing an album, every time I write a song or every time I get closer to finishing, I have those moments all the time now. And it's why musicians go broke and homeless, because they just need that feeling. Like, people think it's like a high, and I think it is a high, but I think for me, it's way deeper. I mean, we've all been high, but like, it's way deeper than that, and I don't know. It's for me. So that's my religious experience through, and I mean, I'm a dad too, so like, there's that, and that's a whole nother world. That's like next level thing. But I don't know, as far as like not biological imperative, like religious experience, like, yeah, music for me would have been the first time that that would have done that for me. And that, I mean, obviously, I've stuck with it. So
I guess to bring things a little bit more, closer to earth, but still is unpredictable, you put out a video today for Clean the Beast that features video footage of Antifa protests and bombs exploding, environmental degradation, and very delightfully, Richard Spencer getting punched in the face.
Yeah.
Can you tell us can you tell us a little bit about this video?
Yeah, that was so that song. It's not about. I mean, the song was. That's not what the video was going to be. The video was going to be. It was just going to be like a lot of the artwork, kind of like, some psychedelic artwork kind of video that's probably on a loop that you're really just listening to the song. But the song's not about. Well, let's. I'll just tell you the story. This is the easiest way, is just to tell you from the beginning again. So, after the election and all this shit went down, and it's going down. Obviously, it's just started. I mean, it's still, I can't even believe what's going on. But so once that happened, it was kind of for my wife, and I think for every woman I knew, it was pretty much one of the biggest eye-opening moments of just how hated and or disrespected women, or they just realized they are not equal. Like, it was one of those things where, I mean, it was every woman just like took it so hard to be like, how is somebody so unqualified and so horrible of a human being that there's I mean, and it's less than half of America. So like, I mean, that's another thing. It's like, yeah, it was a tough time. So essentially, I just felt so bad. I was just like, man, I didn't even think about it on that level. I didn't even think about, there's never been a woman president, and this is the closest we've ever came. And she wasn't a great candidate, but she was not Donald Trump. I mean, that's the thing, and
yeah.
And that's the argument everyone has. Oh my God! But I'm like, are you kidding me? Look where we're at. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, you cannot say that anymore after 45 days or however many days it's been. Like, this is insane. Like, this is crazy. Like, and we chose this, you know, whatever, 62 million people chose this horrible human being over somebody who may not be the best. He's probably not a great politician, but completely qualified. So it's just one of those things that you're like, oh, well, it's because she's a woman, and it's really easy to make a woman look bad. It's just subconsciously men can easily do that, and it worked, and so point being is that it was just like, it really messed with my wife's head, my sisters, my aunts, like everybody was like just devastated. Like, they couldn't believe that this could have happened. It could have happened to them. And so I was, in response to that, like, it's an ongoing thing. It's not even over. It's still, you just still feel it. I still feel it with all the women in my life. And so, but the one thing that does give them power and feel like, all right, well, shit's about to change, because now is a kind of a violent attitude towards things, and it's a reaction. It's a reaction of being beaten back, beaten down. You're gonna fight back. Anybody who doesn't fight back after getting beaten down at this level, when it's just that's you're going to. It's just instinctual. You're not gonna. These protests are great. I love them, and they're pretty much all peaceful, because no one knows. I mean, it's the thing. Everyone complains, like a couple, like, maybe, I don't even know if there's the black bloc, but black bloc people like break some stuff and people flip out because they hit a Starbucks.
Oh
my
no,
God,
those poor Starbucks windows.
I know, those poor Starbucks. And they get so upset. I'm like, dude, do you realize, like, when a real revolution happens, like, go to Brazil, like, go look online, go to see when someone actually gets rid of a dictator, it is not nice. And it's not supposed to be. Like, governments are supposed to be feared, or governments are supposed to fear their people. Like, we keep them in check, and we keep them in check by being 349 million against a couple thousand. So, like, I think that's the thing. So for me, I was like, and then it brings back to the Richard Spencer thing, was that I think it was like a Jezebel article or something like that came up, and like, when you see the 10 best things about the Donald or whatever the election, and it's just Richard Spencer getting hit 10 times. That and I remember like my wife just like showing it to me, and she just like, it just made her so happy to see something, like, to see like someone doing something about hate.
It's funny, because I think Richard Spencer has united a lot of the country in a way that I would have never expected. Just beating the shit out of a nerd would bring us together.
Yeah, I know. It's like, it's the craziest thing. Well, it's because it's like, it was, I mean, you know, it was perfectly shot. I mean, it was the perfect, like, frame. Everything about it was, it worked. It became viral, and it looked, I mean, whatever. It is a representation of how people are feeling on the other side of this. And so whatever. So I was like, man, and Clean the Beast is my wife's favorite song, and it is the most aggressive, so it's probably, you know, just matching where she is right now. But I'm like, you know what? I wonder. I'm not really feeling this video, the artwork video, the psychedelic artwork video. So let me see. Oh, and then there was this, like, Richard Spencer getting hit, and I saw one with stars, and it's like the best thing ever. It's like, I was like, this is great. This is like, I don't know, there's something real visceral about this. I was like, all right, let's see if I can do it to the beginning of Clean the Beast. So I just threw it on there. I was like, yeah. And my wife, like, saw it, and I'm like, what? Played it for her. I'm like, is this cool? Do you feel like this? Does this like make you feel better? She's like, this makes me feel really good. I don't know why. It's such a weird thing to have violence make you feel better. But so I was like, well, you know what? Let's just go. I'm going to go with it. And so I started editing up. I started just going through footage and trying to find, you know, something that shows just the anger and kind of almost. I almost wanted it to be like this is in our back pocket, you know, like this is always, and this should be in everyone's back pocket when there is any hint of any sort of figure trying to become a dictator or any sort of tyrannical movement happening. Like, I feel like that video should be in everyone's back pocket. Like, you should be like, look, if shit goes down, this is just the beginning of what could happen, because that's it. Our numbers are all we have. So at that point, you know, so I just kind of continued, and I finished editing up the video, and I wanted to, you know, I encapsulate the whole, what is happening as a whole. Like, I mean, there's so much crazy shit that's been going on for the last, you know, for the last 30 years anyway, but like, or 40 years now, Jesus. But so I kind of did that, and it was kind of for my wife, and I wanted to kind of, you know, and it's not normally Junius. I try to, like, keep Junius as it transcends things. I don't want it to be, you know, hang out down with humans. I want it to kind of be up above them, you know, but at this point, it's like, nah, fuck it. Like, just, this has to go out there. And I mean, whether it does anything or not, I was hoping people would get pissed about it. And then honestly, most people seem to be okay with it. So, but yeah, so it's out there, and it was more of, it was like a little bit of a love letter to my wife, and I wanted her to, you know, she just was feeling the pressure of, I mean, it's not just for women, it's for everybody, like, but, you know, you can put that video on, you're like, yeah, you know what, there are people out there who don't give a shit about, you know, what law allows horrible people to do, you know, and I think it's an important thing for people to know that protesting is not a waste of time.
So you're in Austin.
Flexing muscle.
Yeah, you're an Austinite. Mm-hmm. Did you make it to the women's march here at the Capitol?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, we were in that. That was and so for me, the thing about protest, I have a bit of a fear of crowds. So it was a rough one. I mean, it was awesome. I was really glad I did it. But I would have probably done it a little different. I don't think I would have I was like right I went down, you know, to the State House and, like, you know, was right in the middle trying to get through that little gate with thousands of other people to get onto the street. And I was like, but it was really cool. I mean, it's pretty, when there's, I don't know how many people were there. I know it was like, 50,000? I think that was the tally.
I couldn't remember. But it's one of the biggest gatherings in Texas that ever happened.
Yeah, and when you're sitting there on the lawn, and there's, like, you know, I'm assuming when it started out, we were there. It must have been at least 30,000 people up there, and you're just looking, and then people, like, start chanting. I'm like, oh fuck, this is primal. Like, this is intense. Like, you just feel it. Like, it brings up maybe some warrior aspect to our genetics that like kicks in when you hear these like roars of crowds. Like you're like, wow, this is empowering and totally empowering. And I think, and to me, like stuff like that, you do it and you're like, okay, yeah, protest, keep protesting. It's good. And the thing is, people are like, oh yeah, they'll go out and they'll get it out and they're not going to do anything else. Or they're going to stop. They'll go and have their cathartic moment and then it'll be over. But I don't think so. To me, it seems like that's just basically going there with 50,000 people just means, oh yeah, I can do whatever the hell I want. I mean, not whatever I want, but I can go out and call the senator and call my congressman, and I know there's at least 49,000 other people doing the same thing, and I don't know, it was a very cool experience.
I think that politicians didn't expect the reaction. Didn't anticipate the reactions that they're getting from their constituents. So it seems like it's positive. It seems very positive.
So far, yeah, absolutely.
So I wanted to ask you. You actually on this new record, you played everything but the drums. Was that
yeah?
How did that experience go for you? Did you have to learn any new tricks on any new instruments, or was it just something natural?
I think, well, on every album, I write everything, and then I send it out to the guys. So it's not too much of this. Honestly, really didn't change anything for me, other than the actual recording part. So when writing, I'm writing 2 guitar parts. I'm doing everything. It's normal. And then I send it to the guys, and I give them my guitar track. I'm like, just do better than this, or at least do as well as this part. And then that's kind of like I'm the final filter, and for everything we do, I am the filter. So like you have to write something as good or better than what I do, and that's kind of like my standard. And I can. It's a little it can piss people off, but it's just my thing. I'm just like, you got to do it. Like just put work into this. So for me, really, the writing aspect didn't change anything. Same shit, except now when I was recording guitars, synths, vocals, I do that every time, so that's not a big deal. But then the bass, that was a tough one because because when I do my roughs, I actually don't write rhythmic. I don't follow the kick. I'm not. I just write a straight up bass line, and that's it. And then Joel, who's a 10 times better bass player, like. He'll lock it in and he'll come up with his own stuff and add cool fills and things that I can't do. And so this time I had to sit down and like memorize patterns and pay attention to drums way more than I normally do, for just like little nuance, like kick fills and stuff like that. I mean, it's funny. Like I didn't realize how much it changes you think differently, it takes you. It's a different meditative experience. It's like it's really cool. Like I feel like it's even more meditative than guitar playing. Like I feel like you kind of just zone out because you're thinking rhythm and you're thinking pattern constantly, as opposed to guitar where it's more you're trying to emote. Well, because I'm singing too, but yeah, no, that was definitely, yeah. I think bass would have been the one that I learned something new, and it was fun. I really enjoyed playing bass or recording bass on this record.
Awesome.
In April, you're going on a short Northeast tour with your label mates, and I hope I'm pronouncing their name right. I can never tell. Ineona? Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, I think that's it. Ineona. I mean, I don't even know there is a pronunciation of that, but yeah, that's what I heard. That's what they say. So, Ineona, yep.
And are you planning to go further out after this run on a different either U.S. tour or maybe head on over to Europe again?
Yeah, we'll probably do, after this, we'll probably do West Coast. I have to get schedules together to figure out when we can go to Europe, but we will go to Europe. I'll probably break that into 2. We're not going to do anything crazy. No big 2-month tours like we used to, but yeah, we'll probably do Europe in 2 chunks, two separate chunks next year, or end of this year and next year, depending on our schedules. But yeah, there'll be more touring, definitely. Like it's just going to be a little more spaced out, so we can, people can take off work and we can get our lives kind of organized for the next run. But yeah, they'll be shorter. Like this one's only a week, and then the next one will be 2 weeks, and then Europe will probably be about a week and a half a piece, 10 days to 2 weeks a piece, and then after that, we might do a short Midwest run too, which would only be like a long weekend, maybe like 4 or 5 shows, 4 shows maybe. And that's it. Like, yeah, it's not, we'll probably be hitting a lot of the same spots we normally get, except we're not going to be doing a lot of the, like Junius generally will hit every place we can, we'll tour for a long time. We'll do long stretches. We're not going to do that anymore, but we'll just hit like all the A markets and stuff like that. So.
Right. Yeah, I actually saw for this upcoming tour you're playing in Kingston, New York, which is funny for me because I lived there for about a year and a half, and not a lot of shows come through Kingston. I think the last one I went to was about maybe 6 or 7 years ago, and it was Baroness on the Red Album tour. But I highly recommend going to Diego's or Dietz's Diner because it's right around the block from where you're playing for food.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I didn't. I think booking agents booked that, but I think it was that, or it basically it was two obscure kind of places. So I was like, Kingston's closer, so I was like, yeah, let's do Kingston.
So I saw that you've got Drew. Circle Takes the Square. He's filling in on guitar duties since Michael's left the band. How did you hook up with that guy?
So Drew's been. So the Circle's connection is Dana and Kathy were in a band in high school together. So they were like in a ska punk band. They were like 15 and 16 or 17. I don't forget their age, but like they were young. And so that's how. So then when I met Dana, I met Dana in like 2000 or something, and I met him and Kathy was in this band called Circle Takes the Square, and they'd come by, and no one was at their shows. Like, we'd go, and it would be us and, like, a handful of other people. But they were, like, really intense. It wasn't my type of kind of music, but it was just, like, you were like, these guys are, like, really good. Like, whatever they're doing is, like, they're good at it. And I just remember hanging out with Kathy, and Drew was always around, but they were on tour, and we just never, they'd stay at our place and then leave, and we'd all hang out in school, but we never had a connection. But over time, especially when Junius started touring more, we'd stay with them, and so me and Drew became really good friends, and probably I want to say almost 10 or 11 years ago, and we became really, really good friends, and we basically talk all the time, and so. And we would talk, we talk about music, talk about Circle, talk about Junius, and we just kind of became one of these things to where he was part of Martyrdom. He did the artwork on the cover, the back cover and the front cover artwork for the Martyrdom, and he just kind of, we kind of just go back and forth with each other about music. When we're writing, when he was doing decompositions and stuff like that, we would just brainstorm, and he's just as weird as I am, so we like to talk about all sorts of weird shit, and so when I was doing this album, I needed a guitar player, and he's like, man, I'd totally do it. I'd love to do that. And he was already going to do the artwork, so essentially he's kind of like my buddy. So it's like basically this album was me and Dana and Drew. Because he sings like on Clean the Beast, he's screaming, and then there's another song that he screams on, and he sings on the other song too a little bit, and then he did the artwork, and honestly, the artwork he's done is incredible. It's like there's so much that you don't even see from what's online. Like he worked way longer than I think he really planned on working on it. But it's a huge thing, and when we talk about concepts, and he kind of helped me brainstorm things, and he'd go and sketch stuff up, and yeah, it was great. And so he was like, yeah, I'd love to be on this album, or to help you out and play guitar or whatever, because he's taking I don't know what's gonna happen with Circle, but so essentially, he was, he's like, I'll do tour. Yeah, let's do tour. I mean, he knew that we weren't going to be touring like crazy, and he's done, like, he doesn't want to tour anymore, like a madman. And it just worked out, because we talked to him. I'm like, dude, would you want to do, like, this is what I'm thinking. He's like, that's perfect. And so we decided to, just join. It's pretty easy. It was like one of those, it's like, he's already one of my best friends, so it was just perfect. It's just, have Dana, who is one of my oldest friends, and have Drew, and it's gonna be fun. I'm excited.
Sweet, that's awesome. That about does it for us this week. I wanted to thank Joseph for joining us on the show today, and I want to thank you for listening. If you enjoy the show, please remember to rate and review us on iTunes, and don't forget to subscribe so that we can get in your head more often.